how our mind is able to look at something and then analyze it so well that it can make 6-7 floor building. Each floor is built on the other one. But this 7-floor building is not outside. Outside it's just a person that exists or doesn't exist. But this is the ability of mind that can reflect and then reflect, again reflect, reflect on its own product. It goes further and further and further. So now let's introduce to you a concept that Muslim philosophers use a lot. Yes.
Sheikh, just to complete this sentence, so ujibat means something made it accept to be existent.
Ujibat.
Ujibat.
Ujibat means something made it necessary, necessitated it.
Something made it necessary.
Yeah, because al-illatu mujibatun. Illa has to make one side necessary, because before that we have equal relation with existence and non-existence. One of them should become necessary. Who determines that? Who defines al-illa?
Yes. So then for wajibat.
Then we accept that, we are passive.
Yes.
So illa necessitates us, we become then necessary. But this necessary is not بالضرورة الذاتية.
Yes.
This is بالغير. Yes. Yeah, you remember we said ضرورة الذاتي. Allah has ضرورة الذاتي, essential necessity. Our necessity comes from outside. We are ضروري بالغير.
Yeah. And then for ujibat.
فأوجدت gives existence.
So it became wajib.
Yeah.
Then it was given existence.
Yeah.
And then it existed.
Because although there is only one action, but our mind can reflect on one action and distinguishes between two sides, giving and receiving. There is only wujud created, but our mind says there is ijad and there is wujud. Do you understand? Yes. Like for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives rizq. What, for example, Allah gives you food. Allah gives you something. What is rizq? This thing which has been given. But we can distinguish. We say there are two sides. Giving of rizq and receiving of rizq. Raziqiyah and marzuqiyah. Although it's not that we have two things outside. But this rizq, when it comes from God, shows raziqiyah. You can reflect and take the concept of raziqiyah. And when it goes to the person, we say marzuq. Okay, like khalq. Khalq is only one thing, but we say khaliqiyah, makhluqiyah. Yes. And these are very important things. We are not, playing with the words. It's not a game. This is very serious thing, This is where we reach the area that distinguishes us from rest of, animals. Animals never, have such discussions.
I don't know.
Yes.
What's the seventh after Ujida?
Pardon?
After Ujida, then what is the seventh there?
After ujibat, wajabat, then ujidat, fawujidat. Wujidat. The reason we say wujidat, because in Arabic, mawjud is ism maf'ul. Otherwise, you could say ism fa'il and fi'l ma'lum. But in Arabic, we have wujud and
Who created
mawjud.
this sentence? It's very interesting.
Pardon?
Who created this sentence?
Human mind.
Yeah. This is reflection. This is reflection of our mind on the way God has created.
Who reflected which philosophy?
I don't know who was the first person who formulated this, but it's very amazing. It's very amazing, how this has been articulated. And also, sorry, You know, there are so many things that we ask Allah to teach us about human mind and the power of the concepts and the power of the words. You know, sometimes if you can define, this is not philosophy, okay, but maybe related. So if you don't accept it, it's not a problem with philosophy. It's just something that I think. You know, sometimes if you can use proper words, and remove any unnecessary words and just keep it to the basic expression of a reality by those words, then somehow those words can stand for that reality, and you can make a connection with that reality through these words. Okay? No comment. Just think about it, then another time we can discuss. Okay, so what is nafsul amr? One of the most useful concepts in philosophy is this concept of nafsul amr, and it's very difficult to explain it. It's very difficult because there is nothing sometimes to refer and say this is nafsul amr. And nafsul amr means fi zatihi or fi zat al-shay. So when you say Zaydun qa'imun, where is the realm of the truth? Where is the realm of reality to which we have to make sure that our image corresponds? External world. But if you say, for example, kullu narin harratun, every fire is hot. And we are not talking about every fire today in the world, like everyone in the room. You know, we are not talking about qaziyya kharijiyya, we are talking about qaziyya haqiqiyya. Any instance of fire which exists today, or existed before, or may exist in future, or may even not come to existence, but if it was supposed to come, all have this quality. So, where is that realm that you want to look and find out whether this sentence is true or not? Yes?
Sheikh, what about قلنا للنار كوني بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم?
Yeah.
How do we explain that one? Is it no longer fire? Or is it a fire that doesn't have this quality?
First of all, maybe this كل نار حارة is not without exception. It can be nar if there is no obstacle, because as you know, we need muqtazi, we need shurut, and we need adamul mani. So fire has iqtida for heat and burning, but to burn needs lack of obstacle. You may have a dress that would not let fire touch you, or you may have protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that fire doesn't touch you. But fire has always that iqtiza for burning itself. You know, so fire is not like ice. Even if you have protection and fire doesn't burn you, but fire has essential quality of producing heat and light. Yes.
Exactly, which is exactly the question, because the verse says kuni,
Yeah.
the fire. It's
Yeah.
not introducing a third preventive element. The fire itself is now cold and safe. وقلنا للنار كوني بردا.
Yeah.
So how does this?
So fire remains fire and has this quality of burning unless there is obstacle. In that case, there is obstacle. Obstacle can be physical, like anti-fire clothes. obstacle can be spiritual, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving protection. So, where is nafsul amr? When you say, where is the reality when you say kullu narin harra? Or when you are talking about, for example, circle, and we don't have perfect circle outside. You talk about a line, we don't have perfect line outside. Where is the reality? So Muslim philosophers have introduced this concept of nafsul amr. Nafsul amr. Of course, this concept doesn't solve the problem. It's by itself. This is an indication of the complexity of the things. They want to tell you, don't expect for all types of truths that you would find something outside and then you can check it. It's more complicated than that.
So what do you mean by this word, nafsul
amr?
What does it mean?
It means it's in own reality, in its own essence. So, for example, when it is Zaydun qa'imun, do you know the difference between mahmula bil dhamime, mahmula min samime? No? Okay. This is another also good distinction. Can I write here? You know, this is a distinction philosophers make and Haji Sabzawari uses in his book, in the poem. Sometimes we have al-mahmulu bil-dhamimah, and sometimes we have al-mahmulu min samimah. In order to make it, more beautiful, he put it in this way: samim and dhamimah. Dhamm, dhamma yadhummu. What does it mean? Dhamma.
To merge?
Means to mix, to merge. When you bring two things closer to each other, this is called dhamimah. For appendix, we use dhamimah. When something is attached, we say dhamimah. Samim means from its essence. Samim. In Farsi we say samimi. Dost samimi. I say this is my intimate friend. Yeah, samimi. Means we have relation of heart with each other. Samimi. Samimiyat, intimacy, So mahmul, Muslim philosophers say that we have two types of mahmul. Al-mahmulu bil-dhamimah, al-mahmulu min samimah. When you say Zayd is standing, or Zayd is writing, or Zayd is angry, Zayd is happy, you are talking about things that can be attached to Zayd. Happiness, or sadness, or standing, or being a writer, being a father, these are additional things that come and belong to Zayd. Because Zayd in its essence is just a human being. So these mahmulat are bil-dhamimah. Means they are attached. They are external. They are additional. Yeah? Is it clear? But when you say Zaydun mumkinun, where does this imkan come from? Is it attached to Zayd? No. This comes from the essence of Zayd. From its very essence comes out. When you say Zaydun mumkinun, Zaydun faqirun, you bring from its essence. Okay?
So it's like accidental and essential.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not essential, because when you say essential, then you may refer to the jins and fasl. It's not jins and fasl. It can be bil mulazama. You know, imkan for Zayd is not jins or fast. If you say haywan natiq, it's jins and fast. But imkan is just abstracted. It's intizai. Okay? So, there are different types of things that we can use as predicates for some subjects. Philosophers say that for all these different types of predicates that you apply, there is a realm. There is something that you have to consider. There is something that your sentence has to correspond to. Maybe something obvious outside. Maybe something that needs intizar, needs intellection. This maybe you don't find it in a normal dictionary, but this is what in philosophy we use. Intellection. Ta'aqqul means you have to exercise your intellectual capacity. Okay, intellection. So you realize that when I say Zayd mumkinun, although you cannot go outside and find this imkan standing next to Zayd, but you realize that I am telling you the truth. Don't say, you know, I went everywhere, I didn't find imkan, and so Sheikh Shomali made mistake. No, I didn't make mistake. You have to go and find it in the right place. Imkan doesn't stand next to Zayd. Imkan is inside. Min samimihi. Okay? So, to bring all these different types of possibilities under one notion, they use the concept of nafsul amr. So they say, everything has to match or correspond to nafsul amr. It can be qaziyya mujabih. It can be qaziyya salibih. When you say Zayd is not standing, and Zayd is not standing really. So, there is nothing there as like non-standing. Yeah. You know, when Zayd is standing, it's easy. But when Zayd is not standing, so what do you find? You cannot say, I found non-standing for Zayd. You understand it by implication. You say, because he was not standing, therefore he is non-standing. Okay? Or when you say, so-and-so doesn't have a son, doesn't have a child. Okay, doesn't have a child. Where did you find this lacking child? Lacking child doesn't exist. Does it exist or doesn't exist? Lacking child doesn't exist. But it is true. Although it is true, but it doesn't exist as something that you can point at it and say, this is lacking child. If someone, you know, doesn't have a quality, lacking that quality is true, but not necessarily something that you can point at. So, whether you are talking about something that is existing outside independently or existing outside by the way of implication, by the way of intellection, you realize that this has this quality, that sentence can be true. Or if your mind is analyzing, and in any level of that analysis, your mind finds that reality has this quality, it can be true. Although your mind is not here misleading you, but it's opening to you realms of realities that if that sentence matches one of these levels, still it's true. Okay? So you understand something, but to be able to explain it is difficult. You know that when I say, for example, every triangle, its angles are equal to 180 degrees, you realize that this is true. But if I ask you, where is this truth that I can find and I can check, you cannot tell me. But philosophy helps you to understand and realize that to be true doesn't need to have an independent external presence. It can be independent external presence, it can be dependent. And when it is dependent, it can be bezzamime, it can be mensamime. If it is mensamime, then mind is bringing this out. And then you can check your own mind. Okay, I hope inshallah this is clear. If you study and do mubahis and have questions, then inshallah we can discuss it next session. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.